Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. I'm Christina Catane, and I write multiple genres, including Christian fiction and murder mysteries.
And I'm Piper Dow, and I write Christian and cozy fantasy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. We are so happy that you are here, whether you're in our chat, chatting with us live, or whether you are listening to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe and just hit all the buttons. Tell all your friends whether you like us or not, so that we can get the word out there that we exist. You probably obviously can tell Jen is not here. She is on a retreat or at a conference. I'm sorry, and Jamie has no power in Florida, and so we had planned all along to have Piper on today as a guest host. So it's just me and her. And Piper, why don't you introduce yourselves to everybody and tell us what is up with you?
Okie dokie. So I write under the name Piper Dow. I have been telling stories since I was a little girl, and I always dreamed of writing books. I still have dozens of half-filled notebooks from high school, college, in the basement that, never got finished. I got married, put my fiction writing on hold when a job opened up at our local weekly newspaper, and I worked there for 14 years as a journalist and associate editor and photographer. At a weekly newspaper, you kind of do everything. And then I started getting back into writing fiction when I transitioned from that job into a healthcare position. My first novel started out as a NaNoWriMo project, but it took me 4 years to write it. And now I have one contemporary Christian fantasy series published.
Awesome. I did the same. I wrote a lot when I was younger. I had this notebook that I was writing a serial soap opera that I would take to school for my friends to read. It was called When the Blank Hit the Fan. It wasn't blank. I'm just saying. And so awesome. I had no idea you'd written at a newspaper and all that. That's really cool.
Yeah. I had a story published in Cricket magazine, which when I was a kid was like, that was the echelon. I will have made it when I have a story published in Cricket. And I did. And it then was picked up. So that's, for those of you who don't know, that's a children's literature for ages 12
I had a subscription. I might have even read it.
Well, so this was probably, oh gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, but it was then picked up from there. I only schlepped it out to a few magazines, and Cricket accepted it. And it, by the way, took 2 years to get published from when they accepted it to when it finally came out.
Yeah, the publishing world's I can't even think of the word, but not indie publishing, but the regular publishing world is
right.
That's what
including magazines. They're glacial. But it got picked up from there without any effort on my part, and it was used for the state of West Virginia for their state assessment test for middle schoolers. Then it was used for practice exams for the state of Illinois, and then it was published in a textbook to teach junior high students English as a second language in Israel. That meant more to me than all of the newspaper writing that I did.
You're world published.
Yep, internationally. That's right.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Okay, we have some people in the chat this morning. We have Catherine Carroll. Good morning. She says, yay, Piper. Jason Marsh is here with us today, Purpose Behind the Pen, and SL Perrin. So welcome to the chat. We always have a lot of things that get said in the chat that are very helpful. We don't always get to call attention to everything that is said, but we try to. So if you're listening to us, sometimes if you go look at the chat later, you can get a lot of little nuggets of wisdom from our chatters because they are awesome. Okay, so what's up with me is I did a thing. Last week, I told you that I was going to start a critique group and I was going to put it out there. So I put it in our Facebook listeners of the Christianity Writers podcast group. I put it on my own personal Facebook. My husband shared it on his Facebook. And now we have a critique group with 4 people. And I think that's like the perfect number because if everyone submits 5,000 words, that's like a quarter of a novel to read in a week. So I think that's perfect. And it worked out really well. And also, I hired a book coach. So she told me, I gave her my manuscript for book 3 of my Angelica series.
Yeah.
And I'm not supposed to touch it for a month, so I got to find something else to do. But I was having so much trouble with the revision and editing. And I went through this with my other 2 books too. And I've been thinking about it since I started revising book 1. About how nice it would be to have a book coach to like walk me through the process so that I could have some kind of certainty about my process. I think that's my problem. I'm worried that I'm not doing it right because I just don't have certainty about the process.
Which strength is it that needs certainty? It's a couple of strengths, right?
Well, yeah. When they start talking about the strengths and they start talking about needing certainty, like all of my top 5, I have learner, intellection. I think it's mostly intellection.
Yeah.
Input, context, and ideation are my top 5.
Mm.
And then I have strategic in my top 10. So they also are best seeking. They want to have the best way to do something. And you can't trick them into thinking it's the best. It actually is to be the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hired this book coach, and she is going to walk me through this whole revision process with my book, and I'm really excited about it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. It does help. I had hired not a book coach, but she billed herself as a beta reader, but the notes that she gave me back were book coach quality, and it was so helpful. It was so helpful. Mine was I revised book 1 after I had the whole series done, which I wouldn't advise doing, but I mean,
but sometimes you got to do it. Like,
I needed to do it exactly, but I'm saying I would advise maybe doing it before the end of the series.
Yeah.
So
we've when I had a beta reader for book 1 that my other friend had said, I have some friends who would want to do this. One of them was an English professor at the University of Washington, and I got like a whole editorial page, like typed out 2 pages of editorial feedback, and she convinced me to completely rewrite book 1.
Wow.
And so it was a completely different animal before I rewrote it after getting her feedback. Okay, so let's see what we got in the chat for what's ups. Catherine Carroll putting final touches on the book that needs to be formatted and uploaded on Monday, and trying not to freak out about not having the cover yet. Oh no, we're not going to freak out with you. We'll just say a prayer. Lord, help her get the cover in time. Here we go. Thank you, Jesus. Estelle Parents is Piper. Back when I was teaching, I may have used your cricket story in my test prep for my elementary students. That sounds familiar.
That sounds awesome. That would be cool.
Jason Marsh is figured out how my whole series is going to go, which has greatly helped working on book 1. Oh yeah, it's great to have a target to shoot at. Yeah. Awesome. And Purpose Behind the Pen. What's up? I am in a writing slump. Oh no. I am trying to recover from imposter syndrome as soon as I get back into book 18. Yeah, you should go watch the clip from a show that I don't normally watch, but I love this clip. It's oh, what is it called? It's Sheldon, but the one when he's older. You know that
Oh, The
show,
Big
yeah.
Bang Theory. The
The
Big
Big
Bang
Bang
Theory.
Theory. Just Google Big Bang Theory imposter syndrome, because there's these scientists in the clip that have taken credit for something that Sheldon and his girlfriend did. Amy, I think her name is.
Yeah. Yep.
And they say, "Oh, I think I have imposter syndrome," and she loses it on them and starts screaming at them and goes, "You don't have imposter syndrome, because you can't have imposter syndrome if you're an imposter, and you're an imposter." It's great. So, like, just go listen to that anytime you feel like you have imposter syndrome. If you have it, that means you're not an imposter. Awesome. Okay. Did you say your what's up?
I didn't, because my what's up is really what this episode is going to be about. Yesterday was my last day at work. That's what I did. I don't know if can anybody see my roses. One of my clients gave me roses and a nice little card. Yeah. Yep.
So how are you feeling today, knowing that yesterday was your last day?
I still have a report to finish writing up, but that's like that. Yesterday was my last day actually seeing the clients and seeing the people, and yeah, it was a little bit bittersweet, because they're gonna miss me, and and I think on some level I will miss them, but I won't miss working. So
right. So on that note, let's just get right into our topic.
Okay.
And that is, you quit your job. Piper Doe quit her job to be able to do other things, one of them being to get back into your writing.
Yes. Actually, a huge one.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't the only reason, but it was part of it. So let's talk about the why.
The why. So in addition to working in healthcare, which it was part-time, but I also am a caregiver to live-in grandchildren, and I have my mom and an aunt that do not drive and have assorted various appointments that they need to get to. So it wasn't just the part-time job that was taking me out of the house. It was all of these other things that were keeping me from doing the things that I want to do, which involved, projects around the house, craft projects, quilting that I need, and writing. And I'm trying to break into a new to me genre, and feeling a little unsteady as I do it. So I decided to take a course, and I got partway through, and I am not sure about what I'm doing. And so I'm stuck, and there's gotta be a strength that is holding me back. But because when I got stuck, I just stopped. And so it's been months that I have not really written. And so I just knew. And so, yeah, my husband and I, and I want to state this right up front. I understand that this is a privileged position to be in. Not everybody can just quit their job, but finances for us was not a huge part of the issue. So it's been, even when I worked at the newspaper, it was, when you don't want to work anymore, you don't have to. So we discussed, and there were certain things that, he was like, well, if you hate your job, I want you to quit. I didn't hate my job. And I also have intellection. And so when I would think about, because I've been thinking about it for a year, when I would think about quitting my job, I didn't hate the job. it was only part-time. There were all these reasons to not quit the job, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, I just, it was time finally. And, you know,
And with
praying.
intellection, like there's like a if your intellection loop is like a clock, the face of a clock, you probably know this, but I'm saying this for our audience. You
I
start
don't know
thinking
this.
about something at 12, and the hand goes around, the hand goes around, the hand goes around, and at 11:55 is when it's prime time for you to act on what you're thinking about. And that, but if you get back to 12 and you haven't acted, the gravity of what you're thinking about takes you around again.
Oh,
And then you have to wait till you get back to 11:55 to be able to act. So you have to be a cognizant of when you feel like now is the time to act, you got to pull the trigger, because if you keep thinking, you're going to fall back into the thinking loop.
right, right. So when I had discussed with my husband, he was like, "Well, I mean, do you think you could go to the end of the year?" And I planned to, but then there was some other things going on within the household that would have meant that the grandchildren would be alone by themselves in the afternoon after school for a little while, and we decided that we didn't want that to happen yet. Um, so it was an opportune time, but
Right.
also, like I said, yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while. So um, it was time. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So
The
what
pros.
were the pros and cons that you thought about? Because when you're making a decision, I don't know if a lot of people do this, but some people actually write down a list, pros and cons. But a lot of times in our mind, we'll think, like, here's the positive reasons, here are the negative reasons. What were some of your things that you thought about before you made the decision?
Right. Um, Two of the biggest. I am high adaptability, and for those who, when we're talking about strengths, we're talking about the Clifton strengths, and Tina
Right.
and I and a lot of other people have taken those, and so um, my number 3 is adaptability. Adaptability has to adapt. It needs to adapt, and if it doesn't have anything to adapt, I heard this on a podcast or something, YouTube clip, a reel, something, but it was talking about the Parkinson's rule, the Parkinson's law, which is that a task will take up as much space as available to it. And that's key in adaptability, because if I don't have things that I need to work around, but I have a task that I need to do during the day, I have all day to do it.
Mm-hmm. I have high adaptability. I think it's my number 6.
Yeah.
I have the same problem, but my daughter is number 1 adaptability. And her husband brings in enough money where she doesn't have to work. And she has a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
But she was constantly calling me like, Mother, these two, my husband and my daughter, thrive on structure, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what time we eat breakfast, and this is what time we eat lunch, and this is what time we go down for a nap, and this is what time we go to bed. She goes, I can't take it anymore. She's like, so she went out and got a job, and it's only part-time,
Yep.
and
Yep.
but it's doing something she loves, and it's the kind of job where she's working with recovering addicts in a transition
Wow.
house.
Yep. Yep.
So and they all have children, so there's like 5 children and 4 ladies or something in this house, and she has to be adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's been doing so much better emotionally since she started the job. Even though, like, it's heartbreaking, they had to kick one lady out because
Yeah.
they found
Yeah.
drugs in her room. Like, there's stuff like that happens. But the fact that she gets to adapt
Yeah.
and she doesn't have
Yeah.
to follow this rigid schedule like at home.
Right. Right. So I know that I need the adaptability. I mean, the flow, I need to be able to change things up when I need to. But also I need to have in place something, boundaries around the tasks that I need to do in order to make sure that I get things done that I want to get done. And then speaking of the boundaries, my grandkids and my daughter live with us. And so to ensure that I am not the fallback babysitter whenever,
Right.
they want to do something or whatever. In the past, I have gone out and let my daughter think that I was working. Well, I was working. I was working on my books.
That's
but
working.
yeah, but told her that, yes, I am busy. I'm not available. You have to hire a babysitter. And so that is something that my husband and I discussed. We need to make sure that those boundaries stay in place, that,
Hmm. Yes.
before pulling the plug and making the decision to
I've
quit.
been watching my granddaughter for my daughter while she works, and I've also had to set boundaries. Luckily for me, they don't live with me. So
Yeah.
that makes it a little bit easier to set the boundaries and say, well, on this day, I have this time blocked off. I can't do it that day.
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, it doesn't matter what I have it blocked off for, it's not available. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, what are some of the things that you did to prepare?
Okay. So again, talking about strengths, I am on the Patreon level with Becca Syme, where I get micro coaching once a month, and I made sure to avail myself of that and said, okay, this is what I'm doing. These are the strengths. What do I need to keep in mind? And those were some of the things. Your adaptability, you're so high adaptability that you need to have things in place that you need to adapt around. So make sure, that's one of the reasons that a part-time job was good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't the only thing. Um, to figure out how to put it back, the writing, put it in place, ensure that I'm not just quitting and now going to clean the house and do the laundry and do all the cooking and do all the projects and never get the writing. Um,
Yeah.
so in after doing that, then I set goals. I have that one book that I have started, and it's partially written, and my goal is to get it done by the end of the year. So I'm not a fast writer, but that's my goal. And I'm very flexible with my goals. If I'm writing consistently toward that end and it doesn't get completed, but I've been writing consistently, I'm happy with that. But that's
Mm-hmm.
the goal that I've set. And then um, a support system. So I've joined the critique group. We are going to be doing. I'm going to be in the office hours on a regular basis now that I've
Awesome.
been able to. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know yet what that's going to look like, but as far as what time of day I'm going to be there, but I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be there Monday through Friday on a regular basis. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you'll have to let me know what your hours will be, because we were talking before the podcast and I was talking about how flexible my schedule is. So, or maybe I said it on the podcast. I can't even keep it straight yet, what we said before and during, but I can switch my afternoons and mornings around at will most of the time.
Right.
And
Right.
Catherine Carroll says, my therapist's heart is so happy to hear you talking about setting those boundaries. Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
gotta have the
Yeah.
boundaries or people will just walk right over them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard that a lot of, and experienced it before when I was home. People think that because you're home, you're available. Well, you're not working. What do you mean you're busy?
Right.
for
So we've
what?
talked a little bit about what you think your daily routine is going to look like, but was there anything else you wanted to add about that? About what you think your daily routine is going to look like?
I think I'm going to, well, the Parkinson's law used to affect my writing too. I'd be writing no, I'm writing. I'm not going to do whatever project, whatever, meals would be haphazard, because no, I'm writing. When I worked for the newspaper, which was, I did have deadlines, it wasn't, I couldn't just push it out and say, well, I'm being consistent. So I think the consistency, which is not anywhere in my top 15,
I think it's 32
or
for me out of
discipline or any
34.
of those. Yeah, they're all way
Yeah.
down there. But to say, okay, I have to have a block for writing today and I'm going to have a block for a project. And whatever project it is, if the project is taking my mom to a doctor's appointment and then out to buy a new recliner, well, that's my project for the day. And then I'm going to also have time. So it's going to be flexible, but I'm going to have a block, and I'm going to have a block for a project.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So did we talk about the challenges? I feel like we did, but let's talk about a little bit more about motivation and discipline, because this is something where I struggle myself, because my schedule is so flexible and I get to choose.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the writing. What I have a problem with is putting the actual working job off and going, well, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, and then not feeling like doing it later.
Yeah. The motivation for the actual job, that's why I retired. No, yeah, I think, well, maybe it would help if we're able to say, well, I'm going to be able to go, making up numbers, I'm going to be able to go from 12 to 2 to the writing hours, and I'm going to do my morning thing before 12. Then you would know, and that would give you something to adapt around, right?
Yeah, because I would have to move my work hours and maybe do them in the morning, or my preparing for my Bible study. That's another thing that I do in the afternoons. So
right.
Yeah, that might be helpful. And I feel like I need someone to hold me accountable. That's not my husband.
Right. No,
I don't
yeah.
react well when it's my husband.
Well,
Character
and
flaw, I guess.
well, yeah, that's that whole, you'll have child pains and want to rule your husband thing, right? Isn't that part of the curse? Anyway,
I don't know.
like you said, we've the Becca Symes got the office hours. I've tried those before, and sometimes it's worked, and sometimes it's been too distracting to me.
And sometimes they talk about things that make me uncomfortable.
Right.
I was on one office hours, and I don't know that it was that one, but I got, we were working. It was fine. But then at the top of the hour, they take a break, and then somebody said, "Who's going to Smut Fest?" And I was like,
yeah. Nope.
Not me.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should. Maybe I should go and hand out Bibles.
I
don't know. That is a joke. Sorry. Don't do that.
Yeah, my church, they have, don't be pushy, don't be weird. You wanna give your testimony, but don't be pushy and don't be weird. Yeah.
My sister just posted on Facebook last night about I'm over here doing all the weird, and some of you guys need to step up. I said, I like to keep my weird on the down low. Anyway, so do you have any tips or warnings for anybody, or encouragement?
Well, and so right. So like I said at the beginning, I recognize that quitting the job is not in everybody's scope of availability, right?
Right.
But I really do believe that the biggest thing that is that I was writing consistently, and I stopped because of last year we had a very dramatic and traumatic summer with mental health issues. So that was part of it. And then part of it was breaking into the new genre and not being sure, needing the certainty. My number 2 learner needs to do in order to learn. And
Right.
I've just been stuck. Whatever it is that's had me stuck, I need to work through. But I think that it's the getting back into the writing that even if you can't quit your job to do, there are things that some of the things that I'm doing might be able to be worked into somebody else's life
Right.
who has to work around having a job. So setting up, just I'm going to do a 25-minute sprint, or I'm going to allot a half an hour and I'm going to work on writing.
Right.
Whatever
Like, what are
time
you
block
doing
it
in
is.
your life with the free time that you have that maybe you could take something out and put your writing in, like sleep?
Right.
Like, who needs to sleep?
Or scrolling.
But you could
Or
get up,
scrolling.
yeah, scrolling, watching
Watching.
TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time could be spent writing. You could, like, and I was joking about the sleep, but you could get up an hour earlier or half an
Mhm.
hour earlier to like squeeze in some time. Like, there are ways, and it's so varied. It depends on you and what your strengths are and what your personality is like
Right.
and
Right.
how much energy you have. Like, I always say, if people say they have a lot on their plates, but not
Yep.
everybody's plate is the same size.
Yep.
My husband has a turkey platter and I have a teacup saucer. So I hand him a lot of things, like, put this on your platter because my teacup saucer is running over. But you have to really make sure that it fits you and who you are. But there are ways to do it. And I
Yep.
know that, like Teresa, she just had to got to get a new job. That's why she's not here today, because she has to work. And Jamie, who is one of our co-hosts, um,
Yep.
had to get a job, and so sometimes she can't be here because she has to work. And so you just have to do what you have to do.
Right. Right.
Right.
And sometimes that involves taking a break. But
Yeah.
again, it is intellection, I believe. I asked when I did the coaching, which one is it that the longer you wait, the harder it is to get going again?
That's intellection.
It's
Yeah.
intellection. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is not in my top 5. It's my number 6. It's still
Mm.
up there enough
It's my
to,
number 2.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have all thinking strengths in my top 5. All of them are the Green's thinking strengths. And Susan, I had my coaching with Susan this week, and she said that's like a rope. Like, you don't have threads, you have like a big old rope. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I get in my head and I can't get anything done. That's my problem.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, well, we should probably move on to the next segment, which tends to be everybody's favorite part. This is the first, you guys give Piper a little bit of grace because she's probably never written something in 15 minutes that you didn't have time to think about, to edit, to revise, to do any of the things, and then have to read it out loud to the world.
Right.
So,
Right. Okay.
I've been doing it for 265 episodes, so I'm kind of used to it, but this is the first time for her, so let's be extra kind. So go ahead. Why don't you
Okay.
tell us what
Okay.
the prompt was and what you wrote?
So this deck of cards that my mother gave me for Christmas, it's called the Storymatic, and we chose 2 cards from here. One is for a character and one is for a plot, an object. And so the character was a person who doesn't get the hint, and the prop was a violin. So then Zinnia stared at the man, momentarily speechless. How? What on earth? Was he mad? She swallowed and licked her lips as her mind scrambled for a way to calm the man now climbing to his feet. Matt, I don't think you understand, she began. You're darn right I don't. He pushed a clump of grimy hair from where it had fallen in front of his face. His eyes were bright, glittering with malice. You think I'm doing something wrong, but I'm not. Go ahead, call the cops. They'll tell you. Zinnia shook her head. Her pulse raced, but she tried to keep her voice calm and somewhat soothing. I don't want to call the police. That's why I came over to talk to you myself. I thought I should approach you like any other human being, not treat you like someone I can't talk to. Curses flew from his lips along with a few drops of spittle. He hitched at the waist of his loose sweatpants and bent over to retrieve the blanket that had dropped from his shoulders when he stood. I am a human being, but you think you're too good to talk to me. That's what I see. You live down there, that street, and you don't want your kids to have to see me here, see my situation. That's what I see. You think you're too good. Zinnia took a step back, holding up one hand. This was just going from bad to worse. Matt, I don't think I'm too good to talk to you. That's why I'm here, trying to talk to you. He wasn't listening. He had stuffed his sleeping bag into the backpack he had used as a pillow and jammed his arms through the straps. Reaching down, he grabbed at the violin case he'd used as a table. The McDonald's bag toppled to the side, and he left it where it lay. 2 bottles of water rolled down the gentle slope, but he left those as well. Zinnia had retreated a few more feet to the corner of the street where her daughters caught the school bus every day. She saw Green flutter to the ground and called out, Matt, you dropped your money. He threw his hand in the air in a rude gesture and kept walking, cutting across the field to reach the street away from where she stood. Zinnia hugged herself, taking deep breaths to slow her tap-dancing heartbeat. She crossed back to the patch of ground he had claimed for a bed last night and began picking up the litter he had left behind. Her hands trembled slightly. Her lips tightened as she picked up the $2 bills that had fallen from his pack. She should have handled it better, but she wasn't sure how. She didn't dare try to give him the money or water bottles now. She'd figure out something. End. End of time.
Wow. I really like how we all know that this was a homeless man, and you never once used the word homeless. So that's great show, don't tell. Like, I love that part. And I love that we get to feel that tension with her.
Thank you.
Like this is a scary thing to do, but she's trying to do the right thing. Yeah, I really like that.
Thank
And
you.
Catherine Carroll says that was great. So
Thank you.
that's some of the feedback we have so far. Okay. So I went on a little bit different, but kind of similar
Okay.
way, and I'm going to read mine now. Mine's in first person, and I don't usually write in first person, but I had a good time. It was a cute little store full of curiosities and sundry things. I knew Mom would be in this store forever. She probably wouldn't buy anything. There didn't appear to be any sales or markdowns or anything. And Mom, being Mom and extremely frugal, refused to buy anything at full price. It made no sense to me because she could certainly afford to buy anything she wanted, regardless of the price. Well, maybe not a mansion or a Lamborghini, but I couldn't imagine she wanted those things anyway. What do you suppose your cousin wants for her birthday? Mom asked, turning as she did to take in the contents of the store. She's very into music, I said. Look at those dolls, Mom said as if I hadn't spoken. Do you suppose she would like a doll? Or do you think she's too old for that sort of thing already? I don't think dolls are, but Mom rushed toward the back of the store before I could finish. I moved toward the front window where there was an old fashioned avocado armchair with copper buttons in the upholstery around the edges. I sat in it. Mom didn't really want my help. She said she did. She would ask what I thought, but she wouldn't listen anyway, so why bother? I looked at the violin in the window display. The wood was carved. The wood it was carved out of shone with hints of red in its brown surface. The pegs weren't just those plain black ones you often saw. They were fancy with swirls carved into them. I bet the sound is exquisite, I thought to myself. A little old man, stooped over and wearing clothes right out of West Side Story, shuffled over. I started to get up, figuring he was going to tell me not to sit in his antique chair. Sit, sit, he said. You like? He pointed to the violin. Oh, yes, it's beautiful. I bet it sounds like heaven, I replied. The old man reached over and plucked the violin off its pedestal and tucked it under his chin. He ran the bow across the strings, and I was surprised to hear it was perfectly tuned. What is your favorite song? He asked. I thought for a moment, then said, I guess it would be The Four Seasons by Vivaldi. The old man smiled. Yes, he said, you have very good taste. Then he began to play. As the music filled the little store, I closed my eyes and soaked it in. Then I opened them again and watched the man play. His body seemed decades younger as it moved with his bowing, and the smile on his face said everything I needed to know about how he felt about the music. His eyes were closed, and I realized he was playing the piece from memory, a feat only possible if he'd done it hundreds of times before. Excuse me, sir, my mom interrupted. How much is this doll? The doll she held up looked straight out of Napoleon's court. The old man winked at me. Normally, it's $100, but it's 50% off with the purchase of a child's violin lessons. Oh, Mom said, how disappointing. Then she turned and headed back to the dolls. I thought she'd never spoken truer words in all her life. The old man winked at me and followed after my mom. The end.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I identify with this story so well. I played violin. I started in 4th grade and went all through high school, and then I used to teach when I was pregnant with my daughters. I really liked how you showed the mom was clueless. Wasn't taking the hint. Yes.
Definitely not.
And also I identified with the mom because like I am frugal and I like to buy things on sale, and yeah, that was so good. That was
Thank you. It might be nonfiction.
Oh,
It might be based on reality, is what I'm saying.
Our school, when I was a kid, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade you had lessons at the school.
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was on the Anchorage Honor Orchestra, I think in the 6th grade.
Oh, nice.
And I remember being really excited because we got to play the Rocky theme in one of our main concerts. I had, and like still thinking I'm dating myself.
Is that like a regional? Like a regional orchestra? Or
yeah, it was for the city of Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
The Anchorage Honor Orchestra. So it was for the city. And so I was very excited to get to play the Rocky theme. At this concert that we did for the whole city. It was like downtown at this big place.
Yeah. We had the Southeast Massachusetts Band Association. It was called SEMSPA, and you had to try out to be in it. And I made it twice. And the second time I ended up on crutches, and I refused to go because somebody else I would have had to walk out in front of all those people on crutches, and somebody else would have had to carry my violin for me. I was just too mortified. I wouldn't do it. But
my violin's actually right over there up in the closet.
Oh,
I still have it. Well, it's not the same one, but it's a violin.
Yeah.
Okay, so Catherine Carroll said the guy's wink was perfect at the end. Yeah. I'm really hoping he's gonna like convince the mother that she needs to give her daughter violin lessons so she can get discounts, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm probably never going to finish this story. But
you got a month. You have time to work on it.
I know. I'm actually taking a mystery course right now too, to write a mystery genre.
Right, through AutoCrit, you said.
Yeah, I'm taking it through AutoCrit. Okay. And I'm learning stuff I never knew, like the 4 core characters in a mystery. Like I had never heard that before.
I don't know that either. So
really?
S.L. Perrin says she thinks she and I took the same course, and she's kind of stuck with it too.
Oh,
Like stuck in her story.
right. Well, like
Yeah.
he said, the 4 core characters in a mystery is you have the protagonist and the antagonist. And the antagonist is not necessarily the perpetrator. It could be like the captain who doesn't
Mm.
like you, or like internal affairs, or it's somebody that's trying to keep you from solving the mystery. It could be anybody. And then there is the relationship character. So this is like a mentor or somebody that gives you advice. And on the protagonist side, and then on the antagonist side is the distraction character. So like that's the person who's like really angry and is trying to get involved in this case and is trying to steer you in a direction. Like, so like I had now, and now that I read it and I watch a lot of mysteries, and I'm like, I can see that. And then he had the thematic characters. There's 4 of those.
Interesting. Now, was this a course? Is it like, if I wanted to jump in, is it too late for me to jump in?
I don't think so.
Is it a recorded thingy online?
It's recorded.
I mean, recorded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some live, like at the end of each course, there's some a live thing.
Yeah.
But it's recorded. So if you missed it, you can go back and look at it.
Okay.
So I'm only in the 2nd week, and and this is the week about characters, and I didn't know any of this stuff about the character. I mean, I knew that there was a bad guy and that there are these, but like that these were actually thematic characters that you should have in every story and figure out who they are, because your like your murderer could be the distraction character combined with one of your thematic characters. Like they could have both roles. But if you know what roles your characters play, it like makes the characterization so much deeper. So yeah. So I'm excited about that. And so that is actually my what's up, or what's next. Is I'm gonna be working on this mystery course for the month that I'm going to be off writing, finishing book 3. And I also decided I'm going to do 2 sprints a day on my writing days that I have blocked off. And my husband got me this book a couple years ago for Christmas. It's called The Creative Writer's Notebook. I don't know if it's
Yep.
And it has 20 different famous authors and exercises that were either they did or were like this one I've been doing is Virginia Woolf. I'm not sure that they spoke to Virginia Woolf and said, give me an exercise for this book.
Yeah.
I think maybe this was just something that she had done in her lifetime or she had shared with people. So you're supposed to take a man sitting at a table on his own on a crowded Italian restaurant. A woman from another table gets up, walks over to his table, and sits down opposite him. Now write 3 versions of that story from 3 different perspectives. Like, that's an awesome exercise.
Yeah.
So that's what I did this week. I started writing it. I only got through one perspective because I just got so detailed with the first person and this guy sitting in this Italian restaurant and by himself and the things he was experiencing.
Yep.
So
that
was really
sounds
great.
cool.
So that's what I'm going to do for the next month until I get my manuscript evaluation back from my book coach. What about you? What's next for you?
I am this weekend spending time with my husband and also this is ridiculous. I get decision fatigue, right? There's so many things you can choose to do during the day. And one of the things that was worse for me was supper or dinner, however you choose to call that meal that you have at the end of the day. Right. I call it the same meal. My husband calls it supper because he says dinner is the noontime meal. Anyway.
I think that's like when you get closer to like Minnesota, because my family in Minnesota calls lunchtime dinner. And supper time.
Well, like if you're having Sunday dinner, that's usually the lunchtime meal. But so I know where he gets that from. But I said, well, when you have a
I
candlelight
think it's
dinner, it's
regional.
not at noontime. It's at night, right?
Yeah.
Candlelight dinner.
I think it's
Anyway,
definitely regional.
yeah. So what I did was I came up with 20 different classifications, and we have a, a 20-sided die, and I have my grandchildren roll it. So that's also what we're doing. We're doing
Nice.
today for the month of October. We're going to roll what categories of meals we're going to have, and we put them on the calendar. I'm trying to
That's a
make it
great
as
idea.
simplified as possible so that I can chunk up the day and decide which days already have projects or project blocks,
Hmm.
taken up, and where I'm going to do the writing on those days. And then, yeah,
That's an awesome
I'm
idea.
so excited. That's what I'm doing.
SL Parent said, "Oh, Cindy, you nailed my fear of helping strangers because of that reason. Then flipping out. Well done."
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason Marsh is what's next. Work on 2 different villain names instead of just putting parentheses in those spots. I feel you, Jason. I have so many parentheses with like question mark, question mark, question mark.
I use, there's an app for it, but also, oh no, sorry. I'm trying to get the app, and my phone just showed me that Professor McGonagall died.
Oh no.
Maggie, what is her last name? She's an English actress who played Professor McGonagall in the Harry Potter movies. But the
Oh,
app,
Dame Maggie Smith?
yes.
Oh no. I love her.
I use this app it's also a website, Fantasy Name Generator. And Jason, they have names from different countries, but you can name cities, you can name towns, you can name plants, and it's all the world building that you would want name wise.
Cool.
So because names, again, it's one of those things I have trouble. There's too many possibilities. I would like to just roll
Yeah,
the dice
especially
and
for
pick them.
fantasy.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Purpose Behind the Pen says, "What's next? A small break and then on to book 18. I dream of the day when I'm on book 18 and I'm not stuck in book 3. Okay, Catherine Carroll, final read through formatting and praying there are no glitches with either Atticus or Amazon. And then, of course, working on the next book." Well, we are definitely going to keep you in our prayers, Catherine, that everything goes
Absolutely.
well. And Jason says he's going to sure look into that website that
Absolutely.
you mentioned. Okay, well, I think that we have covered everything for today. So that's the end of this podcast of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.